Hi everyone, this is Tiffany with Raising House and Home, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about food budgets, emergency food budgets to be exact. I did a video a few months ago that was chicken, and it was dinners, 35 meals for $10, and so this time I wanted to try beef. And I know that things are more expensive now that there's a food shortage, but I was lucky to find some discount meat, so it was 50% off because it was getting ready to expire. And I hope you guys are able to do that too. Just kind of watch your stores and try to figure out their routine, and then you can find some discount meat too. So on the table I have most of our ingredients, and the only thing I don't have on here, or things I don't have on here, is the beef, the loaf of bread, and the tortillas, because the beef was about ready to expire, so I threw it in the crock pots and they're cooking right now, and they will be cooking all night so that we can get the broth and the beef will be all cooked for all of our recipes. And then the bread was also 50% off, and so that was kind of getting to be older bread, and I wanted to put that in the freezer to keep it fresh. We have a recipe later on in the week that calls for the bread, and I want to keep it as fresh as possible until we use it. So that's in the freezer, and also our tortillas are in the fridge. So I know that my prices might be different than what you have in your state, but I went on the premise that nothing. If you had nothing in your pantry and you only had $10, could you feed your family with some variety, nutrition, and to have full stomachs? The answer is yes. So I wanted to show you that with even just an empty pantry, you could do that. So hopefully you have something in your pantry and you can add to this. Maybe your beef is the full $10, but you might have some of these vegetables and other ingredients already at home, so you still would only spend $10 for the week. Maybe you'll just find some tips that you can incorporate into your money saving budget for food. So hopefully you guys can find something in this video that you can use, whether you do the whole week or whether you just take a few things here and there that will help you save money. So I'm gonna turn the camera around. I did get a new tripod, guys, so I'm trying it out. You have to let me know in the comments how it's working. And yeah, so I'll show you the breakdown. I'll show you all the recipes that we did, and I'm gonna turn it around right now.
So here's the breakdown. We have 35 beef meals for $10. We have 3 pounds of beef for $4.47, 2 pounds of potatoes for $1, 5 pounds of cheese for $1, 10 tortillas, another $1. And then we have the mixed vegetables for 50 cents. The discount loaf of bread was also 50 cents. The 2 cups of rice, the 1 cup of barley, and 1 cup of dry beans were all 30 cents each. The cup of flour was another 20 cents. And then the carrots and the onion were free for us, and the egg was only 10 cents. And right now eggs are really cheap. I don't know why, but this would probably be a good time to stock up if you can. You can also freeze egg. You can cook things with it that you can freeze. All sorts of ways to save. And we also got the 8 ounce of tomato sauce for 32 cents, and that equals $9.99.
Here are the ingredients for my recipes for this week and for this video. And I'm using my new tripod, so I hope that things are easier to see on my table. Please leave a note in the comments below and let me know if this works better for you. And I hope that I don't make you motion sick as I move over all the ingredients, but we're gonna give it a shot. So first of all, we have our 2 pounds of potatoes. We have an onion, 2 carrots, and the onion and carrots were free to me, and hopefully this time of year you're able to get some benefit out of the gardens or out of maybe a neighbor's garden, and maybe when you're not having an emergency budget week, you can maybe make some muffins for them to say thank you for their gifts from their garden. It would make a big difference, especially when you're struggling or just trying to save money for the week. And here is a cup of flour. We have 2 cups of dry long grain rice. We also have a cup of dry beans. We have a cup of barley. We have salt and pepper, which is the only seasoning I'm going to use for the recipes this week. And then we have this 16-ounce bag of mixed vegetables. And what I'm going to do is take apart all the different pieces. So I'm going to separate them to like just corn, just peas, just green beans, just carrots. And that way there's a variety in the recipes without the cost of buying the single bags of each vegetable. And it's only for a week, so there's plenty of vegetables here that we can do that. And I may even make one night be all the mixed vegetables for a little added spice. And then we have the 8 ounces of tomato sauce, and I have an egg, and this was an 8-ounce brick of cheese, and I just cut off 3 ounces for the recipes this week, so it's 5 ounces there. And I'll just show you, you can hear my chickens out there. And so I'm just going to show you with the tripod all of them. So that's what that looks like. And then I'm going to show you our breakdown of the prices and all the recipes.
So here's our beef that we're going to start out with, and I've just put salt and pepper on it and rubbed it all in so that you can get some seasoning in there. And then I put the beef and onions in the small crock pot with lots of water because we want a lot of broth. That's going to be something that's going to help us with all of our recipes to really stretch them out. So this is the small pieces of beef that I put in the small crock pot, and then I put the bigger pieces in this bigger crock pot that can handle a lot more and put a lot more water in there. And it's going to cook pretty much all night long so that they'll be nice and soft and tender, and that onion will get in there with the beef. So it's really early in the morning and everyone is sleeping, but I wanted to show you guys what the broth looks like. It's been cooking overnight. There we go. So you can kind of see, probably not too well, but I can see like the fat kind of glistening on the top. And do you see the color? It's all like dark brown, and the onions are up top. The meat is completely cooked through and nice and soft, and there's a lot of bits in there that I can kind of see it right there. I'm going to be saving those bits for our broth, and the onions are going to stay in the broth as well. So I have this crock pot, and then the other one is done too. So I'm going to let them cool off, and then I have to put them in a jar and let it cool off some more before I put it in the fridge. So here's our beef all cooked and cooled off and ready for the fridge. And I'm going to leave the fat on it, and I separated the broth so that we can use it in the other recipes. And our first recipe that's coming up is the stir-fried rice, or fried rice with beef. And you can see I have like the nice uniform pieces all cut there, and then on the other side there is like a jumbled, that side right there, there's like little pieces that fell off, so those would be more for like the stew and things like that. It doesn't matter if they're nice and pretty or not. And this is the cooled off broth, and I wanted to show you the fat that's kind of in that corner and all on the top, those little white pieces. That's what we're going to use for a lot of our recipes in lieu of butter. So again, we're going on the premise that we don't have anything in the pantry except for salt and pepper. So this beef fat is actually going to be really helpful for when we are frying any of our foods, like the stir-fried rice. As you see here in the pan, I'm putting in the beef fat and letting it melt so that we can cook the steak and the rice. So here is our beef for our fried rice with beef. The only thing I would have changed on this recipe is I would have just used less beef for the first recipe, and I would have cut the meat up a little bit and mixed it in with the rice so that we could have spread the beef a little bit better throughout the week. And this recipe gave us a lot of rice left over. 2 cups of dried rice made quite a bit, and so we're going to use that later on in the week to help us also spread the budget. So here's just our 2 potatoes and 2 carrots. We are saving the other potatoes for our shepherd's pie. That's going to be a little bit later in the week. And I'm going to get these all chopped up and cleaned up, and then we're going to work on the sauce and the beef. So here we are getting ready to make the crust for the beef pot pie. So we're going to use about half of the flour, about half a cup of flour, because I need some flour to thicken the gravy and to also roll out the dough in. So that was about half a cup. And then I'm going to add the beef fat to the flour instead of butter for our fat to make the dough. And now I'm adding some of the beef broth instead of the water because it adds more flavor and more nutrients. So normally you would add cold water, but this broth is cold because it's been in the fridge. So anything that we can do to add nutrients and to add flavor, we're going to do it, and this broth will help. And here is the dough after I've kneaded it and gotten it all incorporated with the wet ingredients, and I'm rolling it out, and I've got my son as the cameraman for this one. And it rolled out really nicely. I think I might actually do that more often, use the beef fat or even chicken fat. Now this is the fat that I am putting in to make the gravy, and I want to show you, do you see all those little beef bits? That's what we're going to use for the pie because we don't need to waste any extra meat. It's already in the flavoring and in the broth, so it's going to go over the vegetables and we won't even miss any of the beef. So here I am just adding some of the flour to that beef fat so that I can make like a roux for the sauce that's going to go in the pot pie. So I'm just mixing it, and you want it to kind of look like pie crust. And then there's some of the beef broth that I'm adding to it. And now we're just going to mix it all up until it's kind of a creamy consistency. And it gets a little bit thicker. And then this is where I strained some of the beef because we didn't need quite that much broth in the beef pot pie. So I'm getting the bits of meat out, and it's leaving behind really pretty beef broth left over. And then there's the meat inside. So we will put that in our pie, which we did right here. And it looks beautiful. It looks full. And then here's our sauce that we're going to pour over it, and we didn't have to use any butter. I'm just going to poke some holes in the pie crust now it's over the top of the ingredients, and that way we can get some air in there and it'll be nice and fluffy. So here is my youngest son's plate, and he wanted some peas with it, but everybody else just had the carrots and potatoes, and it came out really, really good. So, and there was enough for seconds for everybody. So here's my mason jar, and I like to use the covers from the Parmesan cheese when I have liquids in there that I want to use to cook with. So there's a little tip that you guys might want to try. It works really well. And you can see here that I'm trying to use the broth for our beans. So I soak these beans overnight, and then I cook them in the beef broth, again for nutrition and flavor. And then I added the half of the tomato sauce, so 4 ounces, and we had the beef from some of the beef broth, like little beef bits, and then we had all of the beans, and it made so much, actually too much, because we're not really big fans of beans. And in hindsight, I wish I had actually used the leftover rice that we had from our stir fry instead of the beans, because it was really really a bean heavy taco, as you're going to see. I mean, it filled this up, but if you're not a fan of beans, I would just take the rice that you had left over from the stir fry and make like rice and beef tacos. And then I used about maybe 2 ounces of the cheese to give it like a little bit more flavor and feel more like a taco. It wasn't too bad, but it definitely wasn't our favorite meal of the week. So here's our shepherd's pie, and I didn't video doing any of these steps because I figured pretty much everybody knows how to make shepherd's pie. It's pretty easy. You just put the meat on the bottom with some gravy, some vegetables in the middle, and then throw some mashed potatoes on top. And I had the corn and the peas in that one. And I'm just showing you my 50% off bread. And we're getting ready to make the steak and cheese sandwiches. So I sliced up the rest of the cheese and I sliced up the steak really, really thin. And then here is our beef fat again. Instead of using butter for the sandwiches to fry them, I just put this in the pan and it worked really well. You just don't get quite the like golden buttery crispiness, but it's still crispy. You just don't get like the coloring that you would if you used butter. So we just put all the layers down, the cheese, and then 3 pieces of the steak. And it's so good when the cheese melts on top of it. This is what it looks like on the other side. And then I made like a little au jus out of, like a little gravy out of the broth and stuff so that you can dip your sandwiches in. And if you like onions, you could caramelize your onions in that beef fat, and then you could add caramel onions on top of this. But we just don't really like the onions that way, but I have seen people do that before, and that would make a nice big meal. And then here's my barley, and I did make a mistake with this recipe with this barley. Barley cooks really fast. It's not as hard like as beans, and it has more like an oatmeal consistency if you cook it too long, because it is a grain. So I put it in my crock pot, and I should have watched it a little bit longer. We went for an errand and I totally forgot about it, and I forgot that it takes a lot less time to cook it. So we put the vegetables in. This is me picking out all of the different vegetables from our mixed veggies. And underneath there is some diced up potato that we had. I had just 1 potato and I diced it up. And you can kind of see the barley in there. And then here's some more vegetables. And this is the end. As you can see, it kind of looks a little bit like oatmeal. So it was okay. It tasted okay, but I regret that I didn't pay attention. So if you cook this in your crock pot, definitely only cook it for like 3 or 4 hours.
Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you are happy and healthy and safe. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and also click the bell to get notifications when I put up new videos. I'm trying to do it at least 1 weekly, maybe 2. Times are kind of busy right now. Everybody's doing homeschooling and distance learning, so I'm trying my best to try to get at least 1 out for you guys. Thank you so much for everyone that subscribed and commented and sent me emails. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys soon. Thank you. Bye-bye. I am messing up everything I'm saying right now because I got distracted. We're just going to edit that out. Okay.